So I brought Victor in because we have a meeting about, what are we meeting about again? Like makeup, right? The makeup artistry and stuff.
Costume.
And I told him I had a big surprise for him because I didn't want him to know that I was filming him or interviewing him. But we are going to interview you. And I say we, meaning I guess me and Maddox here. We, because I have this whole entourage behind me, of course. We've gotten a lot of people, specifically friends, that kind of helped out throughout the years. And they always ask, they're always surprised, I should say, about all the behind the scenes that goes into MOXIE. And I thought you would be the perfect person to interview because this is your first time co-producing with MOXIE. And I wanted to just ask you some of the questions that people have been asking me. And also, I'm going to plan to do a lot of behind the scenes footage for specifically this party because I think it's really fun for people to see that. So part of that is interviewing you, and I have just a few questions that were asked of me, and so here we go.
Yay! Questions.
So the first question is, one of my favorite questions, I actually put this on my website and I posted it recently, is what do you think the biggest misconception about MOXIE is?
Ooh, good one. I think the biggest misconception is that it's some weird sex party or something.
Totally.
Which is so odd because I don't know why people would think that, but that's what comes to mind when I think of a misconception of a MOXIE party.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, just to speak to that point, we held mansion parties before we launched our website. And I basically went to all my target market. I pitched the idea of what MOXIE was. I showed them the website, and we literally got that feedback from them. Because the website looked slightly sexy, it just, for what, I don't know if it's a Colorado thing or what, but people just went there. I feel like if we were in LA, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But they really did think it was like an Eyes Wide Shut party or something. And so it was really, really interesting. So we ended up toning down our website and even the language that we used because we wanted it to feel like sophisticated and sexy. But when you have a little bit of sexiness come into play, people just go into that, like down that rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that you said that.
I think so.
Yeah. So here's another question for you. What is the biggest misconception that people have about you?
Ooh. I think a lot of times the biggest misconception they have about me is that I just dwell in being gay. Like, everything about me is gay. Well, which is such a huge misconception. And I think that stems from the art that I do, that could drive that kind of misconception. But I think that's really it. Like, a lot of people think that that's my whole life. And it's like, well, there's so much more to me. And I think also people have this misconception that I don't know, when they hear about all the things that I do, they get so surprised. Like, how can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like they expect me to be like this one-sided thing or person versus like being multifaceted and having all these talents and skills. I don't know why that's always so shocking to people.
Because you're so talented. In many different facets. I think a lot of people are really good at one or two things and you're good at a lot. So it probably is surprising that,
I suppose, yeah. But it's like, that's what I do.
What would you say is the saying? I have it in my head. What would you say is the saying that represents you the best, that you would say to somebody else?
You do you.
Yes!
You do you, boo-boo. I just can't be bothered with people's stuff. I feel like, listen, it's a free world for you to do however you please. So if you need me to validate or justify or falsify your existence, that's not me. Like, you do whatever you got to do. That's all on you.
Oh my goodness, it's so
Yeah.
great. Okay, so you've been helping me out. I mean, we've had such a short time to pull this together. Usually we have a good 3 months. We have exactly 2 months. What do you think for you has been the biggest challenge in co-producing this show so far?
I think it's finding the right people to send the right voice with the right tone of what we want. Like even something as for events like this, something as primal as having like performers. It's like, do we have the right performers to actually send the right message and or the right tone based on their performance? Do we have the right makeup artist to convey the message that we want based on looks and things like that? Do we have the right costumes? So I think it's just pulling together all the things that actually send the message. Like, yeah, it's Day of the Dead, but it's also a party, but it's also one of enlightenment, of telling people exactly what Day of the Dead is about, but also having them enjoy the event in a space that is welcoming. So that's kind of hard to pull all those things together and put it all into one. So that's been my biggest challenge, is finding the right people to help with the production, to send the right voice. Yeah.
What has been the most exciting part about working on this project for you?
It sounds cliche, but I'd say all of it, because like I normally would just show up and perform and be like, okay, see you later. But I think being part of it to this extent, where it's like I have to think of things and think of people to help me with certain facets of it, I think that's been super exciting, because to a certain level my name kind of is attached to certain aspects of it, and so I definitely want to make sure that it's done properly. Yeah. So I'd say like the whole co-producing portion has been super exciting, because it's something I've never done before.
Is there anything that surprised you about this process?
It's exhausting.
Thank you. So the thing that cracks me up is that you have been in my productions a few times.
Right.
And so what was so funny to me is from my perspective and my side of things, I kind of made the assumption that a lot of people knew how much work it was because they were a part of the project.
Right.
But what cracked me up about working with you and co-producing is you would always, like, as you started, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. Oh my gosh, like, do you sleep at night? Oh my goodness, like, you have to do all that? Like, when you start seeing the Excel spreadsheets and all that business, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize, like, you have to figure out electrical, you have to figure out, like, oh my gosh, you know? And so I thought it was kind of funny, because I'm like, God, you know, people don't realize that. I think that for a normal quote unquote event party, right, it's pretty straightforward. You can be an event planner and do well. You can, you know, it's all about just coordinating the right talent to come in and scheduling and all this stuff. But MOXIE is different because it's all of that, but then you add in the element of artistry and all of the different experiences that we create that are immersive, but also really touching people's hearts in a way where they leave and have a like super memorable experience.
And I think that's the difference, is a lot of times people don't get to, or just simply don't understand that it is a lot of art being put into one place, and it creates an experience. And you can go to events sometimes and you leave and you're like, okay, well, that was fun, but it's forgettable, it's not memorable. But I think what makes MOXIE different is it's definitely an experience that you remember. And that's really hard to pull off. So it's very exhausting and time consuming and like a lot of planning. Whereas before I'd just be like, okay, which part am I doing? You know? But now I can't do that. But it's refreshing though, because it gives me a different perspective.
Yeah, I think that having certain people really being involved in a lot of the stuff that I used to do by myself in the beginning has been actually more meaningful for me to create this project, because I'm no longer the one-man show having to do everything. So it's great to be in a place where I can hand stuff off to somebody that I really trust and know that it's going to be done. And one of the things that I'm really proud of you for is not just understanding our brand, but being able to work with people and bring them in with the understanding of that they do match the brand and they match the professional story that we're trying to tell. And I think that that's been really cool to watch you grow and flourish in that way with these performers. And I do feel, funny enough, there's like this magical thing about Moxie where it really weeds out people.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, you know, and just like with anything that is art, I think art itself is super subjective, right? So I think it's egotistical as artists to think everybody will love our work and or everybody fits into our brand. So, you know, there are just some people that it isn't for them. You know? And that's totally fine because I'm certain that there's another outlet for those people that they fit perfect into, perhaps just not here. And that's okay. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make us bad people. It just means it's not a fit.
Well, and also how people handle the rejection, whether it's from Moxie or somebody else, speaks volumes about their professionalism.
It does. And you know, yeah, as an artist of any kind or as a dancer or something, you go to an audition and they're like, you're not it. It doesn't mean you're a bad dancer. You don't sit there and be like all over social media like, you suck. Like, no, you just weren't the vision at the moment. You know, it could be tomorrow, it could be whatever, but in this very moment, in this instance, you're not it.
And you're pretty amazing, and you've been rejected before. Can you?
All kinds of times.
Right.
Like, oh my God, like even in modeling and everything. I actually got a call once when I was in California for this cast call for Levi's. So I assumed, well, if they called me, they must want me. So I show up all like, yay, I'm here, and tried on all the denim along with some other models. And then they were just like, okay, well, we've picked. And I wasn't picked. And I'm sitting there like, the hell just happened? Right? But it's like, you know what? Maybe the vision changed, or maybe there was something that changed in the very moment that you showed up, or whatever the case is. So long as you put out your best foot, like it doesn't matter. It just means that you weren't the vision at that moment. So I was like, well, thanks for the denim, and I wore the shit out of them. And then I kept it moving.
I think that's what I love about you is that shows a lot of professionalism, but also, you know, your character, right? It's like being in the spotlight, being a performer, you have to be able to take the good with the bad. Just like playing any sports, right?
Absolutely.
You're not going to win every game.
No, you're not. And I think, you know, there's some ego in thinking that you always are it, and or you always are going to be a good fit. I think it's good to have ownership of self and be like, these are the things that I do well, and this is what I bring to you to make me an asset, and own that and be confident in that, but don't assume that everybody would want that. Yeah.
Well, it was just lovely talking to you.
Yay!
Well, guys, I think we need to get going on some work here, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes picture of what we put into Moxie and a little bit more structure around the intention of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will see you November 1st. And tickets are going to go up in price September 28th. I believe that's not this Saturday, but next Saturday. So get your tickets soon. And for those of you that have discount codes, those will not be working after the 28th. So please get online and get those tickets with those codes before the 28th. And we will see you guys later. Bye-bye.